question was asked, how do you approach a horse? Do you know the horse that you're wanting to approach? First, you don't want to walk up to a horse and surprise it. You want to let him know you're there, and you should always approach a horse from his front end mostly. You don't want to walk up behind a horse, especially if you don't know him. You know, if the horse belongs to somebody else, you probably better have permission to approach their horse. What sex is the horse? You know, is it a stud horse? Some stud horses can be dangerous to walk up to. I try to train my horses to approach me, and to me that's the best way to approach a horse, is have it come to you. A lot of times if a horse is a little bit head shy and it doesn't want you approaching it right at its head, if you're off to the side and it acts like it's going to shy away from you, you might come to the front shoulder first and then work your way up to their head to put a halter on or what.
Do you chase a horse?
Guess that depends on your definition of chase. I prefer not to chase horses if you're trying to catch them. I have my corral set up here so that if I've got a horse that's hard to catch, I can open a couple of gates and put that horse into a round corral. And once I'm in the round corral, then that gives me the advantage. If you're standing in the middle of the round corral and the horse is running around the outside, I can get ahead of that horse anytime I want to by just taking a few steps. And so the horse can run and run and run and never get away from you. And by putting a little bit of pressure, if you're putting pressure on the hind quarters, and get to move their hind quarters and then give them a little bit of room, and a lot of times with a little bit of training, that horse will come to you. So if I've got a horse in the round corral, I might chase its hind end, teaching it to face up and look at me. If I chase its hind end around and get it to move that hind end, trying to put pressure on its hind end, and that horse will face up and face you, then that helps a lot trying to catch a horse. If you can get a horse to come to you on command, then that makes catching a horse way easier, and approaching a horse becomes a whole different ball game than if the horse is turning its tail towards you and running away from you.
What if they hide behind another horse?
They're pretty good at that kind of stuff, so you just have to work around that as best you can. Same things still apply. Don't get where you're going to get kicked or something by either of the horses, and be paying attention to their body language. If you're coming up to an unknown horse and it lays its ears back, I mean, a horse's ears are usually pointing where its attention's at. Yeah, I don't know, she'll point her ear back here towards me now, see, and if I come up here, then her ear's going to come forward a little bit, and she's kind of paying attention to me, and that's all normal. But if she lays that ear right back on her neck, if she lays that ear right down flat on her neck, then that's a sign that she's upset about something, and she might either kick or bite. And so you want to be watching for that. If a horse has got its ears laid back tight on its neck, you might want to stay clear of it.
What are some of the body language cues that you look for when you're approaching a horse?
If I'm approaching a strange horse and it turns its butt to me, then I've either got to put pressure on that and get it to turn around and face me, or get out of the way so I don't get hurt. And if that horse is hiding behind another horse, then you just kind of got to maneuver yourself to where you can get in a position to catch that horse.
I'm a beginner and I've just bought a horse and I want to go walk out into the corral and catch it, but it runs to the far side. What do I do?
You've got to start a relationship with your horse.
If I can't catch it, how am I supposed to start a relationship?
Well, you have to do what you have to do to catch it, I guess. Sometimes a little treat, a little bit of grain or something. If every time you go down you shake a grain can or something and get that horse to approach you with a little bit of grain, that can also get you in trouble sometimes if you overdo that. Catch it in the corner. I prefer a round corral. I can ask it to look at me, and if it doesn't, then I can keep the pressure on it and keep it moving. And once I get that horse to give a little bit and look at me, I can give it a release, and pretty quick I can have that horse coming up to me. You want you to be the release. You want the horse to come to you when he gets a release, so that he learns that you're the comfortable spot. When you're out there putting pressure on him, you want him coming to you and get a release.
So if I walk into this corral, she won't do it because she knows where she's at. And I just walk straight up to this horse, she's not going to do anything. But what happens if she turns her eye away?
As long as she's not moving her feet, she's not going very far, I guess.
If you have problems catching your horse and you lose an eye, if they usually run away, then their feet are going to follow their eyes. So when you lose an eye, stop or even take a step back and maybe a little bit towards their hindquarters. I mean, not like totally be to their, but something to attract their eyes back to you. She's just too easy tonight. We brought her in because quite often she's kind of a pill. We can usually get her to come up to us, but sometimes it takes a minute.
The horse is turning away from me. I like to just put a little bit of focus on their hind quarter and push that hind quarter and give them a little bit of room. They'll usually come back to you.
But that's something you have to train for.
Yeah, but even horses that, I mean, that's the basis that you're using when you're training a horse, is push the hind quarters and get their head to come to you.
And it's that pressure and release.
Yeah.
You put pressure on the hind quarters until they move the hind quarters, and then you back off.
Yep, that's what I do. If the horse is just standing there and you're way over here and you want that horse to come to you, then I like to just start focusing on that hind quarters and get her to move her front feet and see how far I can get her to come to me. If she takes a couple of steps, then I'll repeat that. I'll go to the other side and I'll push that hind quarter and get her to move her feet until she comes clear up to me. Being able to push the hind quarter and train a horse that when you're pushing that hind quarter, it needs to face up and come to you.
So Ted's doing all of this at Liberty, but Red's been doing this for a lot of years now. So if you're not real familiar with your horse, put him in a halter and a lead rope, and you can do all of these same things. You can put pressure on the hind quarters while keeping a hold of the lead rope, which will help swing their head towards you when their hip swings. Instead of running away, you can have a little more control of their head and where it goes. That sort of thing. Hopefully we answered some questions about approaching your horse and getting the response that you want. Kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier tonight on my Facebook Live. You have to build trust with your horse, and you have to get to know them, their personality, their mannerisms, their quirks, and then work from there. But there are some basics of horse training: catch and release, pressure and release, skills, watching their body language, and training them to come to you rather than you always having to chase them. Hope this helps somebody.